Factors include a history of violence and societal decay thanks to 50 years of apartheid. But there's also poverty, alcohol abuse and inadequate policing. Police figures show a sexual offence is committed every 8 minutes in South Africa. Yet campaign groups say just 1 in 9 attacks are actually reported to the police. That's because 9 out of 10 accused men walk free.
Somebody attacks you and rape you will not change who you are.
In a culture of such impunity, there are only small signs that Dumisani and others are making a difference.
And those men that are doing those things, that the man, for me, that is somebody that is already dead while he's alive.
People need to understand that this thing exists. People need to practice their rights, so we need to talk a lot more.
Beyond the workshop environment here in a township church, out on the streets, the silence still speaks louder than talk of human rights. Jonah Hull, AlJazeera, Johannesburg.
The world's biggest economies have reached a deal on how to track imbalances in the global economy. The issue has been blamed for making the 2008 financial crisis much worse than it might have been. China was initially reluctant but came on board in the end. From the G20 finance ministers meeting in Paris, Jackie Rowland reports.
Putting on a show of unity. The smiles of the family photo can't paper over the divisions within the G20. The world's leading financial powers agree that there are imbalances in the global economy, but it's much harder to agree on how to measure them. The sticking point was China. It didn't want its massive foreign currency reserves to be used as an indicator, but G20 members were able to reach a compromise.
This is a very complicated undertaking, and we need to be very careful to make sure we create a level playing field across countries so that financial activity does not migrate to jurisdictions where standards are weaker or less vigorously enforced.
Ministers have also been focusing on commodity prices and food prices in particular. They want to find ways to protect the poorest countries against big price swings.
We have had a major convergence of views between different countries, developing countries and emerging countries, industrialized countries, to say that we had to go much farther in transparency, in the identification of stocks, in the use of agricultural land to respond to the need of population for food.
The financial crisis of 2008 was a global phenomenon, and ministers recognise that they'll need to take a global approach if another meltdown is to be avoided. The French hosts of this meeting have warned countries that they'll need to put self-interest to one side if the whole of the G20 is to achieve strong, sustainable growth. The long haggling over indicators raises a bigger question. If the members of the G20 found it so hard to agree on how to measure global imbalances, will they ever reach agreement on how to tackle those problems? Jackie Rowland, AlJazeera, Paris.
2 German journalists have been released from prison in Iran after being charged with spying. Marcus Helvig and Jens Kohl were sentenced to 20 months in prison for interviewing the son and lawyer of a woman condemned to die by stoning. But Iran's Revolution Court dismissed the sentences, instead slapping each with a $50,000 fine. Germany's ruling CDU party is expected to suffer heavy defeats in a series of regional elections that begin on Sunday. That could further shake the stability of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's coalition as its popularity continues to slide. Nick Spicer reports from the port city of Hamburg.
Shipping gets a vote of sorts in Hamburg politics. It is Europe's 3rd biggest port. And the mayor wants to dredge the river so that more vessels can come and use it. But that's not going to save Christoph Ahlhaus. The man from Angela Merkel's Christian Democrats is poised to lose, some 20 points behind the Social Democrats candidate. He sounds in denial.
So you're still hopeful? Even
sure.
Though, yeah.
We do not only hope, we will fight.
Voters in Hamburg are starting off what will be a whole season of regional elections in Germany. There will be at least 7 out of 16 regions, and they threaten to give Angela Merkel's governing coalition a very rocky ride, and especially for the junior partner in that coalition, the Free Democrats. Leave the shop open, they chant, young members of the local Free Democrats. The shop has to close at 4 on Saturdays, and these defenders of the free market don't like that. Their party scored well and played a kingmaker role in the last general election, joining Angela Merkel in her coalition government. Some 2 years on, there's a problem. Experts say giant deficit spending saved the German economy, so few people are now buying the Free Democrats' mantra of tax cuts.
They said if we lower the taxes, we will have a revival of our economy. We have not lowered our taxes, and we had nevertheless a revival of our economy.
Hamburg's politics are like those of the other regions voting this year, largely local. But if the Free Democrats keep losing ground, Chancellor Merkel may need to start looking for a new national coalition partner. Nick Spicer, AlJazeera, Hamburg.
Let's get some more news from the Americas now. It's back to Daljit in Washington.
MEK, thanks very much. Venezuela has dismissed Washington's calls for an international investigation into alleged human rights abuses by the government of Hugo Chavez. The probe is a key demand of a group of Venezuelan students who have been on a hunger strike for more than 2 weeks. They say the government uses judges and prosecutors to target the political rivals of President Chavez. Guatemala has lifted a state of siege in a drug region bordering Mexico. The Interior Minister says that the 2-month-old measure has pushed crime down by half in the province of Alta Verapaz. Guatemala had targeted the Mexican-based Zetas cartel, which took control of cocaine trafficking in the province in 2008. A 2-week-long transport strike in Colombia is now over. The government agreed to cancel a cut in the minimum fee that truck drivers are paid for hauling cargo. Thousands of truck drivers and their families had been blocking roads in the capital, Bogotá, crippling parts of the city. Oil from BP's massive spill in April remains stuck on the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. That's according to a top U.S. scientist. Samantha Joy of the University of Georgia says that the oil has not degraded and that life along parts of the seabed has been decimated. Joy conducted her research through submarine dives around the spill site. Her findings appear to contradict claims by BP that the region would fully recover by next year. Now, winds topping 80 kilometers per hour have caused travel delays around the Washington, D.C. area. The windstorm fanned fires in surrounding counties, prompting the closure of several highways. As Barbara Bernitz reports, the gusts also uprooted a very special tree.
4, 3, 2, 1.
It's a presidential tradition dating back to 1923, the annual lighting of the national Christmas tree in Washington, D.C. But the majestic blue spruce that has stood over the White House for the past 32 years is no more, a victim of strong winds gusting through